once you start, do you find that you cannot stop eating? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on, once you start binging, how you can stop. So hi, I'm Vanessa McLennan, and I'm a therapist that helps people with their eating disorders and eating issues. And I work from the inside and also on the mindset. So to look at more of my videos, please click the subscribe button and click the bell for more videos. Thank you. Believe it or not, your compulsive eating is not about the food. It's a drive, or it's an emotional driver. It's something inside of you that is really wanting something. Now, if you've been in that side before, you have binged before, you might well know what I'm talking about, in that your mind just takes over and the emotions just take over and you just can't stop. So therefore, it's not about being hungry, because you probably find yourself that you eat so much that you just override the fullness. You keep going and you can't stop. So therefore, it's not about filling your stomach either. It's, what is it? What is it? It's this inside of you, this emotional driver, and that's what we're going to look at today. Now, I am also going to put in a caveat in there to say, if you're binging on white food like sugars, anything with sugar in it, white food like pastas, breads, pizzas, anything, sort of with like that's highly addictive quality to it, then there is an element of that this food is going to release chemicals inside of us that is going to want us to crave even more. So sugar is highly addictive, and of course sugars are in white foods like breads, and that is going to overtake us, almost like an addiction to some point. Stop restricting yourself. So it's this restriction that often then causes us to binge. So a lot of the time I hear my clients say, how they put these rules on themselves. They're not allowed to eat certain foods, not allowed to eat, at certain times. They're only allowed to eat certain amounts. And these rules then that are self-imposed, get put on them. And then they try to live their lives, by these rules. And inevitably, of course, it's either that they want something nutritionally, or that their minds and something takes over, something triggers them and they go full out on this binge. And, maybe we've all experienced this on some level. And what we're doing is really, we're going from two extremes, where we're binging out or we're totally restricting ourselves. So I wonder, do you find then the more that you put these restrictions on yourself, rules on yourself, the more that then, it's like being like this tightened, imagine if you're like really, really tightly bound and you inevitably, of course, you want to break free. And our mind is actually also going to guide us to the foods that we want, nutritionally. If we are lacking in fats, or we are lacking in energy, or we're lacking in carbohydrates, our body is naturally going to seek that out, because we all the time do naturally want this balance. And so by actually what we're doing is restricting ourselves, like those old-fashioned pinball machines, where you flick the pin and it goes from one side and it bounces to the other and bounces to the other. And that's what we're doing, with this binging and this restricting. We're restricting so much that we ping off, and we then binge all out, and we binge so out that we then ping back, and we're like all the time bouncing between the two. Okay, so it's it's trying to go down the middle. Now, you might also think that other people have more self-control than you, have more willpower than you, are better in some way. That is just not true. Okay, all that perhaps other people are doing is they haven't learned to try and correct their eating by going off this bouncing machine. Okay, and so what would it be like to take the restrictions off? What would it be like to just eat what you want when you want? Now, you may be worried that you are going to binge out. And for the first part, just let yourself just let yourself go for it and just see what happens, because eventually you will find this happy ground. Do the stop sign technique. So when you're not binging, what I want you to practice to do is, in your mind, picture, a great big red stop sign. Okay, so just picture it, close your eyes, picture red, big red, and it's got stop written across the middle of it. Okay, make it very, very clear, make it, very close to you, so it's like inside, sort of right there for you. Right, once you can then picture that easily, so obviously you close your eyes and it's there for you. Okay, Then shout out loud, stop! This is in your head, not out loud. So shout, stop! Right, so pair the two together now. See the red sign, shout stop. Okay, so that should be easy. Now, then what we're going to do is you can take a few deep breaths. All right, so you're just going to breathe in and out. All right, so that little technique, we want to try and just stop that pattern of, binging, and if we can't stop eating, we want something to trigger us out of this, keep eating pattern. So have it so that you immediately look at something. So pair this stop sign with something that, where you are. So in other words, where do you normally eat? And then picture this stop sign in that place. And then, so you picture the stop sign, you shout stop, and then you take the few deep breaths. Right, practice that pattern when you are not eating, when you are not in this binge. And then, you see, when you are in the binge, you can then look at what it is that you've paired, that red stop sign to, okay? And then it will come up for you automatically. It's like anything. If you don't practice it and you're expecting it to work and you haven't practiced it, then it's not going to work for you. Right? You have to, set your mind up for it so that you're making all of these associations, and then that will then stop the pattern, and then you can go and think logically to be like, okay, stop, what am I doing here? What do I want? Do I really want this food? No. And then it allows you the space to be able to put that food away. And then it also helps to just move away from the food. Right, let me know if you've tried that technique, or let me know what you think. Try tapping. This is where you get your two fingers and you put it on here, what's called the karate chop point, right? And you start tapping, okay? And this is a good way. I found it really helpful with my clients in one, that it helps you to sort of get into the emotion and of what's driving you. Because, if we're in this full force of I can't stop eating, we've got to sort of put a pause on that. And this is one way that you can do that. So it helps you sort of stop, pause, and it also helps you to recognize what it is that you're feeling, what is it you're doing, in other words, what's driving this. And then it also helps on the CBT side, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, to reframe your thoughts. So just start here, and you might be like, even though I'm eating, even though I really want those biscuits, it's okay because I love and accept myself. Right, so you go around and you tap here, you start here, which is just above the eyebrow. So even though, so you say how you're feeling. Even though I really want this bread, I really want this pizza, I really want these sweets, it's okay because I love and accept myself. Okay, and you can go through each point, which is the side of the eye, under the eye, top of the nose, under the nose, then around here, just under, it's a sore point, just under the first collarbone, and then under your armpit, and the crown of your head, and then tap your wrists together. And then you can go back to that karate chop. If that is, you're in the middle of a binge and you're like, and that's too much for you, just do the karate chop point, right? That's what I found worked for me, that point, or this point, right? Because say if I was somewhere in the middle of, a bus, for instance, and I really needed this, I would just tap there, so it's not so obvious. So by just tapping here and just by the acknowledgement of, this is where I am, I really want to eat X, I really want to eat that, and I'm hot, it stops the full force of this emotion driving you, okay? You're acknowledging that emotion, you're acknowledging where you are, and that in itself helps you put the pause button on the actions that normally follow, which is continuing to eat. Right, let me know what you think of that.